Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Discovery, watching the endless stars through the massive view screen. 3 months had passed since they left Earth behind, carrying 50,000 sleeping colonists to their new home on Kepler 442b. The ship was humanity's greatest achievement, a floating city designed to cross the dark spaces between worlds. Jake was a tall man with graying hair at his temples, earned from 20 years of commanding space missions. He had volunteered for this one-way journey because he believed humanity needed to spread among the stars. Earth was getting crowded, and people needed room to grow and dream. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," said Lisa Carter from her station. Lisa was the ship's navigator, a young woman with sharp eyes who never missed details. She had joined the mission to see parts of space no human had ever explored. "What kind of something?" Jake asked, walking over to her console. "Energy signatures that don't match anything in our databases. They're coming from the Theta sector, about 2 light years off our planned route." Tony Rodriguez looked up from his engineering station. Tony was responsible for keeping the Discovery running smoothly during their long journey. He was known for his steady hands and calm voice, even during emergencies. "Captain, those readings are strange. The energy patterns pulse like a heartbeat, but they're artificial. Someone built whatever is making those signals." Jake felt excitement and worry mix in his chest. First contact with alien life had always been a possibility, but now it was real. "Dr. Wells, please report to the bridge." Dr. Amanda Wells arrived within minutes. She was the ship's lead scientist, specializing in alien biology and culture. Amanda had spent years preparing for this moment, studying every theory about what other intelligent species might be like. She was a small woman with bright eyes that missed nothing. "We found them," Jake said simply. Amanda's face lit up. "Really? Are you certain?" "The energy signatures are definitely artificial," Lisa confirmed. "And they're getting stronger as we approach." Jake made his decision quickly. "Change course. Let's go meet our neighbors." The Discovery adjusted its path toward the mysterious signals. As they got closer, their instruments revealed more details. The energy source was a massive fleet of ships, each one several kilometers long. The vessels moved in perfect formation through space, their hulls gleaming like polished metal. "They're beautiful," Amanda whispered. The alien ships detected the Discovery's approach and changed their course to intercept. Jake ordered all weapons powered down and broadcast a simple message of peaceful greeting on all frequencies. The response came as a series of musical tones that made everyone on the bridge smile without knowing why. The ship's computer worked to translate the sounds into words. "Greetings, children of the distant stars," the translated message said. "We are the Zephrians. We come in peace and hope you do the same." Jake felt relief wash over him. "Respond with the same message. Tell them we're humans from Earth, and we're honored to meet them." Over the next several hours, both sides worked to establish better communication. The Zephrians were willing to share their translation technology, which helped conversations flow more smoothly. They arranged for a meeting between small groups from each species. The Zephrian delegation arrived in a shuttle that looked like it was made from living coral. When the airlock opened, Jake got his first look at Earth's new neighbors. They were tall and graceful, with skin that shifted between blue and green like ocean water. Their large eyes were kind, and they moved with fluid motions that reminded him of swimming. The Zephrian leader introduced herself as Elder Counselor Mir Cavell. She spoke in a voice like gentle waves on a shore. "We are pleased to meet the humans. Your species radiates curiosity and hope. These are good qualities for those who travel between stars." Amanda stepped forward eagerly. "We're honored by this meeting. Can you tell us about your people?" Mir Cavell's expression grew sad. We are fleeing our dying homeworld. Our sun grows cold, and soon our oceans will freeze forever. These ships carry all that remains of our civilization. Where will you go?" Jake asked. "We search for a new home among the younger stars. The galaxy is vast, and surely there is room for wanderers like us." Tony nodded sympathetically. "Space travel is hard. We're making the same journey, looking for a new world to call home." "Yes, but you travel toward the safe regions," Mirkavel said. "That is wise. Many areas of the galaxy are dangerous for travelers." Amanda leaned forward with interest. "Dangerous how?" The Zephrian elder's skin darkened to deep blue, a sign of distress that the humans were learning to recognize. "There are places where ships disappear, regions where the very stars seem wrong. Most dangerous of all are the territories once controlled by the ancients." A chill ran down Jake's spine at the way she said that word. "The ancients? You do not know of them?" Mirkavel seemed surprised. "Perhaps that is blessing. They were beings of terrible power who ruled vast portions of the galaxy long ago. Entire civilizations served them, whether willingly or not." Lisa looked fascinated, despite her fear. "What happened to them?" "They vanished. Some say they destroyed themselves in a great war. Others believe they transcended physical existence. But they left behind ruins on thousands of worlds, filled with technology beyond understanding." Amanda felt her scientific curiosity burning. "Have you seen these ruins?" "Once, when I was young," Mirkavel replied. "My people found a dead world, covered in ancient structures. The buildings were made from materials that should not exist. Inside were machines that responded to thought rather than touch." "That sounds incredible," Tony said. "Incredible and terrifying," the elder corrected. "The ruins called to some of our people. They would stand for hours staring at blank walls, claiming to see visions of burning worlds and endless battles. We left that place quickly." Jake frowned. "You said the ancients ruled by force?" "The stories say they conscripted entire species into their armies. They turned peaceful worlds into weapons factories. Toward the end, they grew desperate and cruel, willing to sacrifice anything to win their war." "What war?" Amanda asked Dotmir-Kavel's. Skin became almost black with fear. "Against something from beyond our galaxy. An enemy so terrible that even the mighty ancients could not defeat it completely. The final battle left scars on space itself." The Zephrian gestured toward a star. "Chart on the wall. These are the forbidden sectors. 17 regions where ancient presence still lingers. Ships that enter these zones either never return or come back with crews driven mad." Jake studied the marked regions. "Why do you think the ruins affect some people differently than others?" "The legends say ancient technology responds to certain bloodlines, that it recognizes the descendants of those who served them long ago." Mirkavel paused. "But these are just stories told by frightened peoples." Amanda made mental notes of everything the elder shared. Do all species know these stories? Every civilization old enough to have met the ancients tells similar tales. They appear in our oldest histories as gods of war and technology, beautiful and terrible, bringing advancement and destruction in equal measure. The conversation continued for hours, with the Zephrians sharing star charts and warnings about dangerous regions. They marked trade routes that were safe and systems where other peaceful species could be found. As the meeting ended, Mirkavel offered a final piece of advice. "Your species is young and hopeful. Do not let curiosity lead you into the forbiddens. Sectors. The ancients left guardians in those places, machines that still carry out their final orders." After the Zephrians departed, Jake called his senior staff together. The discovery of other intelligent life was exciting, but the warnings about the ancients troubled him. "What do you think?" He asked the group. Amanda spoke first. The scientific possibilities are incredible. Ancient technology that responds to thought, materials that shouldn't exist. We could learn things that would advance human knowledge by thousands of years. Or we could end up like the crews who came back mad, Lisa pointed out. Tony was practical as always. The Zephrians seemed genuinely afraid. That has to mean something. Jake looked at the star charts again, noting how the discoveries planned. Route would take them close to one of the marked forbidden sectors. Their destination lay just beyond the edge of what the Zephrians considered safe space. The next morning brought troubling news. Lisa had detected energy signatures matching the Zephrian descriptions of ancient technology. The readings were coming from a system directly along their planned route. Jake stared at the display, showing the mysterious signals. They had come to space, seeking a new home for humanity, but instead they had found evidence of a lost civilization that might hold secrets beyond imagination. The question now was whether those secrets were worth the risk of investigating. The Zephrians had been clear about the dangers, but they had also hinted at knowledge that could change everything. As Jake considered their options, he wondered if humanity was ready for what they might find among the ruins of the ancients. The decision he made now could determine not just the fate of the discovery, but the future of the entire human species. Captain Jake Morrison stood in his ready room, staring at the star charts spread across his desk. The energy signatures they had detected were growing stronger with each passing hour. His senior staff had argued for 3 days about what to do. Next, Captain. Lisa Carter's voice came through the intercom. The readings are off the charts now. Whatever is out there, it's massive. Jake made his decision. Against the warnings of the Zephrians and the concerns of half his crew, he was going to investigate. Humanity had not traveled this far into space to turn away from the greatest discovery in history. All senior staff to the bridge, he announced. When everyone gathered, Jake looked at each face carefully. Dr. Amanda Wells was practically bouncing with excitement. Tony Rodriguez looked worried but determined. Lisa Carter seemed torn between fear and curiosity. Security Chief Paul Bennett frowned with concern. "We're going to take a look," Jake said simply. Paul stepped forward immediately. "Captain, with respect, this goes against everything the Zephrians told us." They were genuinely terrified. They were also amazed by ancient technology, Amanda added quickly. "Think about what we could learn. Materials that shouldn't exist. Machines that respond to thoughts. This could change everything for humanity." Jake nodded slowly. "We'll be careful. Small teams, limited exposure, strict safety protocols. But we have to know what's out there." The discovery changed course toward the energy source. As they approached, their instruments revealed something that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Orbiting a dead, airless planet was a structure, unlike anything in human experience. The object was enormous, easily as large as Earth's moon. It was made from materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, but held their shape perfectly. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with soft blue light that pulsed in complex patterns. "It's beautiful," Lisa whispered. "It's terrifying," Paul corrected. Amanda was already studying the readings. "The energy output is incredible, but it's not dangerous radiation. It's something else entirely. Something we don't have instruments to properly measure." Jake felt his heart racing. This was clearly ancient technology, exactly as the Zephrians had described. The question was whether they should approach or keep their distance. "Life signs?" he asked. "Nothing," Tony reported. "The structure appears to be completely empty. But, Captain, some of the energy readings suggest that sections of it are still active." Jake made his second major decision. "Prepare a shuttle. Dr. Wells, you'll lead the exploration team. Take Chief Bennett for security, Engineer Katie Sullivan for technical support, and Communications Officer Alex Turner in case we need to establish contact with anything inside. Paul shook his head. Captain, I strongly advise against this. We have no idea what we're dealing with. Exactly why we need to find out, Amanda said, already heading for the shuttle bay. 2 hours later, Amanda's team approached the ancient structure in a small shuttle. As they got closer, the symbols on its surface began pulsing faster. As if responding to their presence, Katie Sullivan, a young engineer known for her skill with complex systems, monitored their instruments. The energy patterns are changing. It definitely knows we're here. Alex Turner, responsible for all ship communications, tried scanning different frequencies. I'm picking up some kind of signal. It's faint, but it's definitely artificial. The shuttle found what appeared to be a docking bay, a smooth opening in the structure's surface that was perfectly sized for their small craft. As they approached, the opening widened to accommodate them. That's either very welcoming or very ominous, Paul muttered, checking his weapons. They docked and ran atmosphere tests. Surprisingly, the air inside was breathable, though it felt strangely thick and carried an odd metallic taste. The team stepped into a corridor that stretched beyond their lights could reach. The walls were covered in the same shifting symbols they'd seen outside, but here they seemed more active, moving and changing in response to the humans' presence. This is incredible, Amanda breathed, recording everything with her instruments. The symbols appear to be some kind of written language, but they're dynamic. They change based on who's looking at them. Katie was examining the walls themselves. Captain Morrison, the materials here are unlike anything I've ever seen. They're not quite metal, not quite crystal. They seem to be something in between. They move deeper into the structure, finding vast chambers filled with technology that defied understanding. Crystalline towers stretched up into darkness, pulsing with inner light. Curved surfaces covered in symbols surrounded pools of liquid that reflected no light at all. Alex discovered that his communication equipment was picking up strange signals from the pools. There's something down there. Not alive exactly, but not dead either. The breakthrough came when Amanda approached one of the crystalline towers. As she got within a few feet, it suddenly flared to life with brilliant light. Holographic displays appeared in the air around it, showing star charts, technical diagrams, and streams of text in the shifting symbol language. It responded to me, she said in wonder. Just like the Zephrians said. It knew I was here. Paul moved closer cautiously. When he approached the same tower, nothing happened. Katie tried next, with the same result. But when Alex stepped forward, different displays activated, showing what appeared to be communication networks spanning entire star systems. It's reading us somehow, Amanda realized, determining what we're interested in and responding accordingly. They spent hours exploring, finding chamber after chamber of impossible technology. Katie discovered weapons systems that could apparently tear holes in space itself. Alex found communication arrays that could send messages across the galaxy instantly. Amanda located what appeared to be medical facilities that could heal injuries by rebuilding damaged tissue at the molecular level. But the most disturbing discovery came when Paul found the historical archives. The security chief had been exploring the lower levels when he came across a chamber filled with floating crystal spheres. When he approached one, it projected a three-dimensional scene into the air around him. He watched in horror as the images showed massive space battles between fleets of ships. Entire planets burned as weapons of unimaginable power were unleashed. Civilizations fell as their worlds were consumed by spreading darkness that devoured everything in its path. Team, you need to see this. Paul called over his communicator when the others arrived. Amanda activated more of the archive spheres. The story they told was one of desperate war against an enemy that seemed to consume reality itself. The recordings, showed the final days of a civilization fighting for its very existence. The ancient warriors in the recordings were tall and proud, directing massive fleets with calm determination even as their worlds fell around them. Their technology was incredible, but it wasn't enough to stop the spreading darkness that ate stars and left nothing behind. Katie watched one sphere that showed ancient engineers working frantically to complete some kind of massive weapon. They were building something they hoped would end the war. Alex found recordings of ancient commanders giving final orders to their fleets. The translation system struggled with the language, but fragments came through clearly. Words like sacrifice, final hope, and for the future. But it was Amanda who made the discovery that changed everything. She had been studying a sphere that showed the ancient civilization at its height, when their cities covered thousands of worlds and their fleets controlled vast regions of space. The recording focused on what appeared to be a ceremony, with ancient leaders speaking to massive crowds. The translation system worked slowly on the ancient language, but gradually words began appearing in English at the bottom of the display. At first they were fragments, meaningless pieces of sentences. But as the system learned more of the language, complete phrases started forming. Amanda read them aloud in growing amazement. For the protection of the sacred birth world, where life began, where our ancestors. The recording focused on a star chart showing the location being discussed. Amanda's blood ran cold as she recognized the stellar configuration. It was Earth's solar system. The ancient leader in the recording continued speaking, and the translator provided more text. We fight not just for ourselves, but for those who will come after us, for the children of the birth world, who will one day walk among the stars. Paul stepped closer to read over her shoulder. They knew about Earth. They knew about humanity. Katie found another sphere, showing ancient ships visiting a blue world orbiting a yellow star. The recording showed primitive humans living in small groups, unaware that beings from the stars watched over them. They were protecting us, Alex realized. All those battles, all that sacrifice. They were fighting to keep something away from Earth. Amanda activated more spheres, desperate to understand the full story. The recording showed the final battle, where the ancient civilization made their last stand against the consuming darkness. She watched as they activated their ultimate weapon, something that required the sacrifice of their entire civilization to power. The weapon worked, pushing the darkness back beyond the galaxy's edge. But the cost was everything. The ancient civilization died to save worlds they would never see again. Captain Jake Morrison paced back and forth in the Discovery's main conference room. The news that Dr. Amanda Wells and her team had brought back from the ancient facility was almost too incredible to believe. The ancients were humans, evolved humans from thousands of years in the future, who had died protecting Earth and the entire galaxy. Run it again, Jake said to Amanda. For the 5th time, Amanda played the holographic recording they had brought. Back from the facility, the image of the ancient commander moving her helmet filled the room, revealing a face that was clearly human, but changed by millennia of evolution. Tony Rodriguez shook his head in amazement. The bone structure is different, the eyes are larger, but it's definitely human. How is this possible? Time doesn't work the way we think it does, Amanda explained. These recordings suggest that humanity's future was somehow able to reach back and influence the past. They left these facilities knowing that someday, present-day humans would find them. Lisa Carter studied the star charts they had recovered. Look at these navigation records. They show Earth's exact location, marked, with symbols that translate to origin point and sacred birth world. They knew exactly where we came from. Jake sat down heavily. The weight of what they had discovered was almost crushing. So every story about the ancients that the Zephrians told us, every warning about their power and cruelty, they were talking about us. about what humanity becomes. Paul Bennett nodded grimly. The other species in the galaxy remember our descendants as terrifying overlords who forced entire civilizations into their war. That's how they see us, even though we haven't done any of those things yet. Amanda had spent days analyzing the historical archives they had recovered. The picture they painted was both inspiring and horrifying. The ancient human civilization was incredible. At their peak, they controlled over 40,000 star systems. Their population was in the trillions. They had mastered technologies we can barely imagine. But they were also fighting a war, Katie Sullivan added. She had been studying the technical specifications of ancient weapons. The enemy they called the Devourers wasn't from our galaxy. They came from the dark spaces between galaxies, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing behind. Jake looked at the tactical displays Amanda had reconstructed from the archives. The scope of the war was beyond anything he had ever imagined. How long did the war last? Over 1,000 years, Amanda replied. The Devourers started at the galaxy's edge and slowly pushed inward. The ancients fought them system by system, world by world, but they were always losing ground. Alex Turner had been analyzing the communication records. The final battle records are terrible to read. The ancients knew they were going to lose. Their last messages talk about a final weapon, something that could stop the Devourers, but only at an enormous cost. What kind of cost? Lisa asked. Amanda's voice was quiet. Their entire civilization. The weapon required the life force of every ancient human to power it. They chose to sacrifice themselves completely to push the Devourers back beyond the galactic edge. The room fell silent as everyone tried to process the magnitude of that sacrifice. An entire human civilization, spanning thousands of worlds and trillions of lives, had chosen to die so that others could live. Tony was the first to speak. Did it work? Did they stop the Devourers? Partially, Amanda said. The weapon pushed the enemy back, but according to the final records, it didn't destroy them completely. The Devourers are still out there, somewhere in the dark between galaxies, slowly rebuilding their strength. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How long do we have? Amanda consulted her notes. The ancient calculations suggest the Devourers follow a predictable pattern. They probe the galaxy's defenses, retreat when met with resistance, and build their forces for a larger attack. Based on their projections, the next major incursion could begin within the next 2 centuries. Paul leaned forward. 200 years. That's not very long to prepare for something that destroyed an entire galactic civilization. Katie had been studying the technical manuals for ancient technology. But we're not starting from nothing. The ancients left us everything we need. Weapons that can tear holes in space, shields that can protect entire star systems, manufacturing systems that can build fleets in months instead of years. There's something else, Amanda said, her voice troubled. The ancient technology only responds to human genetic markers. It was designed specifically for us, their ancestors. Other species can't use it at all. Lisa understood the implications immediately. So if we accept this inheritance, we become the only species in the galaxy with access to ancient weapons and technology. We become exactly what the other species already fear. Jake stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there were hundreds of civilizations, like the Zephrians, peaceful species trying to build good lives for their people. If humanity accepted the ancient legacy, those species would see them as the return of their ancient oppressors. Captain, Amanda said softly, there's more. I've been analyzing the cultural records from the ancient archives. They weren't monsters. Their values were recognizably human. They believed in freedom, in protecting the weak, in helping other species reach their potential. Tony nodded. The records show they uplifted dozens of species, sharing technology and knowledge freely. They tried to be good neighbors. So what changed? Jake asked. Amanda pulled up another holographic display. The war changed them. As the Devourers advanced and more worlds fell, the ancients were forced to make harder and harder choices. They conscripted entire civilizations into their military. They turned garden worlds into fortress planets. They used weapons that left some star systems uninhabitable for thousands of years. Paul understood. They became what they needed to become to fight an enemy that threatened all life in the galaxy. But the other species only saw the oppression, not the reason for it. Exactly, Amanda confirmed. The other civilizations couldn't understand the war the ancients were fighting. Most species never even saw the Devourers directly. They just saw the ancients demanding soldiers and resources for battles they couldn't comprehend. Jake turned back to face his team. So if we activate these ancient facilities, if we claim this inheritance, we'll have the power to protect the galaxy, but we'll also become what every other species fears most. Katie had discovered something else in the technical records. Captain, there's another problem. The ancient facilities aren't just museums. They're active defense systems. Some of them are already responding to threats at the galaxy's edge. What kind of threats? Lisa asked. Alex had been monitoring deep space communications. I've been picking up signals from the outermost star systems. Strange energy signatures that match descriptions of Devourer scouts in the ancient records. Amanda felt her heart sink. They're already probing our defenses. The next invasion may be starting sooner than the ancients predicted. Jake realized that time was running out for humanity to make a choice. They could ignore their inheritance and hope someone else would deal with the returning threat. Or they could accept the responsibility their descendants had left them and become the galaxy's protectors, knowing that other species would hate and fear them for it. How many of these ancient facilities are there? He asked. Amanda consulted the star charts. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They're scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for humans to activate them. Each one contains weapons, technology, and manufacturing capabilities beyond our current understanding. Tony was studying the engineering specifications. With this technology, we could build a fleet that would make the current human space force look like toys. We could defend not just Earth, but every inhabited system in the galaxy. But we'd have to become conquerors to do it, Paul pointed out. The other species would never willingly accept human protection. They'd see us as invaders. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. We need to tell Earth about this. All of it. This choice is too big for us to make alone. Amanda looked shocked. Captain, if we send this information back to Earth, it will change everything. Human society, our entire understanding of our place in the universe. Good, Jake replied. Humanity deserves to know what we're facing and what our options are. We came out here to find a new home for our species. Instead, we found out that our species is destined to be the galaxy's last line of defense against something unspeakably horrible. Lisa was already calculating transmission routes. It will take months for the message to reach Earth, and months more for a response to come back. Then we'd better start now, Jake said. As the crew prepared the most important message in human history, Jake wondered what Earth would decide. Would humanity accept the burden their descendants had left them? Would they choose to become the feared ancients, knowing it was the only way to protect all life in the galaxy? The ancient facility continued to pulse with increasing energy as more systems came online. It was as if the structure knew that humanity was finally ready to claim their inheritance. But Jake also knew that once they made that choice, there would be no going back. Amanda made one final discovery that changed everything. The message to Earth had been sent 3 weeks ago, but Captain Jake Morrison knew it would be months before they received a reply. In the meantime, the crew of the Discovery faced a choice that couldn't wait. The ancient facility was responding to their presence in ways that nobody had expected. Dr. Amanda Wells stood in the facility's main control room, watching as system after system came online around her. The crystalline towers pulsed with increasing energy, and holographic displays showed star maps updating with current galactic positions in real time. "It's learning," she told Jake over the communicator. "The facility is scanning our ship's computers and updating its databases with everything we know about the current state of the galaxy." Katie Sullivan was working at one of the ancient control panels, amazed at how naturally the technology responded to her touch. "Captain, this is incredible. I can understand how all of this works, even though I've never seen anything like it before. It's like the knowledge is just appearing in my head." Jake felt the same strange sensation when he approached the tactical displays. Military strategies and weapon configurations filled his mind, knowledge that felt both foreign and familiar. The ancients designed this technology to teach us. They knew we'd need to learn fast. Tony Rodriguez had discovered something disturbing in the facility's deeper levels. "Captain, you need to see this. I found what looks like a countdown timer, and it's not measuring days or months. It's counting down years, and we're at less than 200. Jake joined Tony in front of a massive display showing swirling patterns of light and darkness. The timer showed 187 years, remaining until something the ancients called the final convergence. That matches the timeline Dr. Wells found in the historical archives, Jake realized. The next Devourer incursion. Alex Turner had been monitoring deep space communications from the facility's advanced sensors. "Captain, I'm picking up signals from the galaxy's edge. They're faint, but they match the energy signatures the ancients associated with Devourer scouts." Amanda felt her blood run cold. They're already out there. The enemy that destroyed our descendant civilization is starting to probe our defenses. Again, Paul Bennett had been studying the ancient military records. The archives show that Devourer incursions follow a pattern. First come the scouts, testing our responses and mapping our defenses. Then small raiding fleets, probing for weaknesses. Finally, the main invasion force. Jake made a decision that would change everything. We're going to activate the facilities. Defense protocols. If the Devourers are already sending scouts, we need to be ready. Amanda looked worried. "Captain, activating those systems will send a signal throughout the galaxy. Every ancient facility will respond, and every species will know that humanity has claimed the ancient legacy. Then they'll know," Jake replied firmly. "We can't protect anyone if we're not willing to use the tools we've been given." The activation process was surprisingly simple. Jake placed his hand on a crystalline control surface, and the facility recognized his genetic pattern immediately. Systems that had been dormant for thousands of years surged to life as power flowed through conduits made from materials that defied understanding. Throughout the facility, holographic displays showed the locations of other ancient installations across the galaxy. One by one, they began responding to the activation signal. Jake watched as hundreds of facilities came online, their defensive systems scanning local space and updating their threat assessments. Katie made an exciting discovery. In the manufacturing sections, "Captain, these systems can build anything we need. Ships, weapons, even entire space stations. And they work incredibly fast. What would take us years to build, this technology can create in weeks." Tony found the power generation systems equally impressive. The energy output is beyond anything in our physics textbooks. These reactors tap into something the ancients called zero-point fields, essentially unlimited power. But it was Amanda who made the most important discovery. Deep in the facility's archives, she found detailed records of other species the ancients had worked with during their long war against the Devourers. "Jake, look at this," she called excitedly. The ancients didn't fight alone. They had allies, species that voluntarily joined their cause when they understood what was at stake. The records showed that several advanced civilizations had recognized the Devourer threat and chosen to support the ancient war effort. They had provided ships, soldiers, and resources willingly, understanding that their survival depended on stopping the enemy. So not every species feared the ancients, Jake realized. Some of them were genuine partners. Paul studied the alliance records carefully. The species that joined voluntarily were treated as equals. The ancients shared their technology freely and respected their partners' independence. It was only when time ran short and desperation set in that they began forced conscription. Alex discovered communication protocols that the ancients had used to coordinate with their allies. "Captain, I think I can modify these systems to reach out to current galactic civilizations. We could try to explain what's happening and ask for their help." Jake considered this carefully. The Zephrians had seemed like reasonable people, and their warnings about the ancients had come from genuine concern rather than hatred. Perhaps other species could be made to understand the truth. Do it, he decided. Send a message to the Zephrians first. Tell them who we really are and what we're facing. The response came faster than anyone expected. Within hours, the Zephrian fleet had changed course toward the ancient facility. Elder Counselor Mir Cavell herself led a delegation to meet with the humans again. This time, the meeting took place inside the ancient facility, surrounded by technology that had been built by humanity's distant descendants. Mir Cavell's skin shifted to deep blue when she saw the activated systems. "So it is true," she said quietly. "The humans are the descendants of the ancients." Jake nodded. "We're their ancestors, actually. These are our children, evolved over thousands of years and changed by their journey to the stars." Amanda showed the Zephrian leader the historical records, explaining the truth about the ancient war against the Devourers. Mir Cavell listened with growing amazement and horror as she learned about the enemy that had consumed worlds and the sacrifice the ancients had made to stop them. "We never knew," she admitted. "Our histories only remember the final centuries, when the ancients grew desperate and began forcing other species to fight in their war. We thought they were conquerors seeking to expand their empire. They were trying to save everyone," Katie explained, "even species that didn't understand the threat they were facing." Mir Cavell studied the displays showing current Devourer activity at the galaxy's edge. "And this enemy is returning?" "The scouts are already here," Alex confirmed. "Our sensors show their energy signatures in the outer systems." The Zephrian elder was quiet for a long time, considering everything she had learned. Finally, she spoke with determination. "My people have experienced fleeing from threats we cannot fight. But perhaps it is time we learn to stand and fight alongside those who can." Jake felt hope rising in his chest. "You would help us?" "We would help ourselves," Mir Cavell corrected. "If the Devourers consume this galaxy, there will be nowhere left to flee. Better to fight here now, while we still have allies and weapons. That can make a difference." Over the following days, more species responded to the human communications. Not all of them were willing to help, and some reacted with fear and hostility to news of humanity's ancient heritage. But enough civilizations recognized the truth to give Jake hope. The Altarians, a species of brilliant engineers, offered to help upgrade ancient technology with modern improvements. The Kepler Republic, a union of 3 different species, provided detailed star charts showing Devourer scout movements. Even some of the more warlike species, like the Drachmani clans, expressed interest in testing their warriors against an enemy worthy of their skills. Amanda made another crucial discovery while studying the ancient manufacturing systems. "Jake, these facilities don't just build ships and weapons. They can create entire fleets of automated defenders. The ancients called them guardian ships, unmanned vessels that could fight without risking organic crews. Tony was equally excited by the defensive possibilities. The shield generators can protect not just individual worlds, but entire star systems. We could create safe zones where civilian populations could shelter during the fighting. But Paul remained worried about the human cost of accepting their inheritance. Captain, every species that joins us will be looking to humanity for leadership. We'll be responsible for coordinating the defense of the entire galaxy. Jake understood the weight of that responsibility. Humanity had come to space, seeking a new home and peaceful contact with other species. Instead, they had discovered that their destiny was to become the galaxy's defenders against an enemy that existed only to destroy. The facility's systems continued to activate around them, responding to the growing human presence. Ancient weapons. Platforms came online, scanning space for threats. Manufacturing systems began producing the components for guardian ships. Communication arrays reached out across the galaxy, coordinating with other awakening facilities. 6 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison sent the message to Earth, explaining humanity's discovery of their ancient inheritance. The response finally arrived on a day when the Discovery's crew was coordinating with 12 different alien species to establish defensive positions throughout the galaxy. Jake stood in the ancient facility's main control room, reading Earth's reply on a holographic display. The message was longer than he had expected, containing not just the government's official response, but also the results of a global referendum held among Earth's 8 billion people. "What does it say?" Dr. Amanda Wells asked. She had been working with ancient archives for months, and the technology had changed her in ways that were becoming impossible to ignore. Her eyes now held flecks of silver that seemed to glow in certain light, and she could process information at speeds that amazed even herself. Jake read the key passages aloud. The United Earth government has voted to accept the ancient inheritance by a margin of 68%. They're authorizing us to fully activate all ancient facilities and begin preparation for galactic defense. Tony Rodriguez looked up from his engineering station. The ancient technology had enhanced his abilities to understand complex systems, and he could now interface directly with the facility's controls through touch alone. What about the civilians? What does Earth want to do about the colonists? They're giving people a choice, Jake continued reading. Anyone who wants to return to Earth will be transported back on the next supply ships. But anyone who chooses to stay will be part of humanity's first galactic defense force. Paul Bennett had been monitoring reports from other ancient facilities throughout the galaxy. His tactical awareness had expanded to the point where he could track threats across multiple star systems simultaneously. "Captain, we're going to need volunteers. The Devourer activity at the galaxy's edge is increasing. Our scouts report at least 50 probe ships in the Outer Rim territories." Amanda had discovered something troubling in the ancient archives the previous week. "Jake, there's something else we need to consider. The historical records show that fully activating the ancient defense network will alert the Devourers to our presence. They'll know that someone has claimed the ancient inheritance." Katie Sullivan, who had been working on upgrading ancient manufacturing systems, nodded grimly. "Which means they'll accelerate their timeline. Instead of having 200 years to prepare, we might have only 50. Jake felt the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. Earth had voted to accept their cosmic responsibility, but the people who made that choice were safe on their home planet. The crew of the Discovery would be the ones who had to live with the consequences. "We need to ask the colonists," he decided. "This choice affects them more than anyone." Over the next week, Jake held meetings with representatives from all 50,000 colonists aboard the Discovery. The debates were intense and emotional. Families argued about whether to stay and fight or return to the safety of Earth. Scientists debated the ethics of using technology that would fundamentally change human nature. Military personnel discussed the morality of becoming what other species feared. Elena Rodriguez, a teacher from New Mexico, spoke for many when she said, "We came out here to build a peaceful colony for our children. Now you're asking us to become galactic warriors, fighting an enemy we don't understand." But others, like Dr. Marcus Webb, a retired soldier, saw things differently. "My grandfather fought in wars to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. If we don't stand up to this threat, who will? Our descendants already paid this price. Once, maybe it's our turn." The most powerful voice came from Sarah Kim, a young mother holding her infant daughter. "I look at my baby and I think about the choice the ancients made. They sacrificed everything so that life could continue. If we don't accept this responsibility, then their sacrifice was meaningless." The final vote among the colonists was closer than Earth's referendum, but the result was the same. 57% chose to stay and become part of humanity's galactic defense force. The others would return to Earth on ships that were already being dispatched. Jake made the announcement. On ship-wide communications. "For those who are staying, I want you to understand what we're becoming. The ancient technology doesn't just give us new abilities, it changes us. We'll become something more than human, designed to fight a war that may last centuries." Alex Turner had been studying the psychological effects of ancient technology integration. "Captain, the changes aren't just physical. Our thinking patterns are shifting too. We're starting to see problems in terms of galactic scope rather than individual concerns." Jake knew Alex was right. He found himself thinking about strategic decisions that would affect species he had never met, considering the needs of civilizations that wouldn't exist for generations. The technology was preparing them for their role as galactic guardians. The transformation accelerated when they fully activated the ancient inheritance network. Throughout the galaxy, thousands of facilities came online simultaneously. Ancient shipyards began producing vessels designed to fight enemies that consumed stars. Weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets powered up for the first time in millennia. But the most significant change was in the humans who worked with the technology. Lisa Carter, now serving as the fleet's chief navigator, could plot courses through space-time that bent the laws of physics. Her hair had turned silver, and her eyes could see energy patterns invisible to normal human sight. Katie Sullivan had bonded so completely with ancient engineering systems that she could design and build weapons that existed only in theoretical physics. When she worked, her hands moved too fast for normal eyes to follow, guided by knowledge that flowed directly from the ancient archives. Even Paul Bennett had been transformed. His understanding of military tactics now encompassed strategies for fighting enemies that could devour entire solar systems. He could coordinate defensive actions across hundreds of star systems simultaneously, seeing patterns that no unenhanced human mind could comprehend. Jake realized that they were witnessing the birth of a new human subspecies, evolved specifically for galactic warfare. They were becoming the ancients, just as the historical records had suggested they would. The changes weren't just individual. The crew of the Discovery began working together with an efficiency that bordered on telepathic communication. They shared information through the ancient technology networks, creating a collective consciousness focused entirely on galactic defense. Amanda made the final crucial discovery while exploring the deepest levels of the ancient archives. "Jake, I found the complete historical record of what happened to the first ancient generation, the humans who originally activated these systems." "What did you find?" Jake asked. "They faced the same choice we're facing now. Accept the transformation and become galactic guardians, or remain fully human and let someone else bear the responsibility." Amanda's voice was quiet, They chose transformation, but they left a message for us. The message appeared as a holographic recording of the first humans to become ancients. They looked exactly like Jake's crew, recognizably human, but enhanced by technology that had prepared them for cosmic war. The leader of that first generation, identified as Commander Lisa Park, spoke directly to the camera. If you are watching this, it means you have reached the same crossroads we faced. We want you to know that becoming what the galaxy needs doesn't mean losing what makes us human. Our compassion, our determination to protect others, our willingness to sacrifice for the greater good, these things only grew stronger as we changed. The recording continued. We fought the Devourers for 1,000 years, and in the end, we chose to give our lives to protect the galaxy. But we also chose to leave behind everything you need to do better than we did. Learn from our mistakes. Build alliances we couldn't build. Find ways to win that don't require the ultimate sacrifice. Commander. Park's final words rang through the control room. Remember that being human isn't about what we look like or how our minds work. It's about the choices we make when others need our help. Stay human in the ways that matter most, and you'll find that everything else is just details. The recording ended, leaving Jake and his transformed crew in thoughtful silence. They had become something new, but they were still fundamentally human in their desire to protect others and their willingness to make hard choices for the greater good. Reports from the galaxy's edge grew more urgent each day. Devourer Scout. Fleets were probing deeper into inhabited space, testing the responses of local defense forces. Some outer colonies had already gone dark, consumed by an enemy that left nothing behind but empty space. Jake made his final command decision as captain of the Discovery. We're not just colonists anymore. We're humanity's first line of defense against something that wants to devour all life in the galaxy. But we're also still human enough to know that's a fight worth having. The ancient facility around them pulsed with increasing energy as defense systems throughout the galaxy coordinated their responses. Guardian fleets of unmanned ships moved to intercept Devourer scouts. Planets that had never seen war began preparing for battles that would determine the fate of all life.